Hey everyone, how you doing today? It's the Real Estate Ladies of North Atlanta, Mary Ellen Benakins, Susan Jennings. How you doing today, Sue?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Mary Ellen?
I'm doing fantastic. So today we're going to talk about what's not worth selling from your clean out. So I think everybody kind of thinks that their items are worth so much more than they are. Kind of like when
Mhm.
people look at their houses too, right? They think they're worth
Right.
so much more. So today we're going to just talk about some things that we've heard from some experts on what's not, what's good to give away and what's good to sell. All right,
Right.
Sue, let's take it away.
Right. So, how many of us have inherited, grandmother's china
Yes.
or things like that? And that, your grandmother always told you like how valuable it was and how expensive it was. And, just was so proud to hand it down to you. And yeah, it's beautiful. But did you ever use it?
Or do you wanna use it, right? Or is
No.
it
And,
sentimental, right?
right, right. So sometimes if you need a few display pieces in a cabinet, yeah, they're nice to stick those back there and use them that way. But a lot of them, if they have like the gold plated rim or something like that, you can't stick them in your dishwasher.
Right.
And so a lot of the older dinner plates are also smaller than today. Maybe we need to go back to using the smaller dinner
The
plates. Maybe we'd
smaller
all
ones.
eat less.
Yeah.
But I called Queen of Hearts in Alpharetta, and I said, "Hey, I've got this beautiful set of Royal Winton china, and I'd like to sell it." And she's like, "Oh, we won't take any more of that because." People don't collect china and so forth anymore like they
They
used to.
don't.
It's not like a dowry item like it was years ago when it was like this fantastic thing when you got married to like go on the bridal registry and sign up for this uber expensive china and like save it for Christmas and so forth. And people do still have get out their special china for special events and so forth. But for the most part, I think we've all become much more casual. And I think our guests are more comfortable when we're all more casual and we don't make things so stuffy and stiff like they used to be. So, what do you do with that china, Mary Ellen?
I don't know, what do you do with that China Sue? If it's not sentimental, like sometimes, and I made this like if I got something from my grandmother, it would be like, two items and then and the rest of it,
Mhm.
you kind of get away because otherwise you can have lots of stuff that you don't need. And this is something that, like you said, nobody's buying China anymore. So what do you do with it? So you can donate it, right? Or
Right. You can donate it. Sometimes like there's a China and tea shops in Alpharetta. I'm talking about restaurants that are like tea shops. Sometimes they look for things like that. But really, there's really not a lot of value in some of these things. So you could try to resell it on Facebook Marketplace. You could try to sell it to, there's a place up in North Carolina that where you can buy used pieces, things like that, but you'd have to pay the shipping costs to get it up there. Um, so you're really better off not if it's going to just sit on the shelf in your house and you're really not going to use it, donate it. Maybe somebody else can actually use it.
yeah, that's definitely one thing. And
Mhm.
then one great thing that I've been seeing how generous people are nowadays is I see on Facebook where they say, "Hey, free items." So like I've got these items, you just come pick them up at my house, and
Right,
people like jump at the opportunity for that. Whether it's
right,
toys, whether it's China, it's amazing how fast people will jump for that kind of stuff, especially if you say free. And I've got a good
right,
example. I had a listing and I had to get rid of this really nice basketball hoop, right? And I was just like, you put it for free and you put it on Facebook Market and you get like in a minute, you get like 45 people. And
right,
I went down the list, the first person, and I'm like, here, free, you got to pick it up by this time. If you don't pick it up, it's the next person. And then how thankful people are for things
right,
because you don't realize that somebody's looking for a trampoline. They're looking for, uh, you know, um, a basketball hoop. And then sometimes you put things up there and people don't want to pay for it. So it's very
right,
interesting. They don't want to pay for things, right? So giving
right.
away free is a great great opportunity. It makes you feel good. And also, like, people will say, oh my God, you just made my daughter or my son's, they're so excited about this new basketball hoop. And you're just like, kind of like, oh, it doesn't look that great, but hey, take it for free. Go ahead, take it. And
Okay.
then transporting things and junk is so expensive.
It
So
is.
that's another reason why, like, hey, I got a washer dryer. Who wants it? There you go, like an old washer
Hmm.
dryer or a fridge. That's
Right.
probably something like that too, as well. So,
Right. The biggest item I ever had to help a seller get rid of because it was a state sale situation was a piano.
oh,
And
okay. So
they
tell
had
me about
listed
that
the
story.
piano on, yeah, they listed it on Facebook Marketplace and so forth. And they had a few inquiries into the piano and so forth, but nobody wanted to pay for the piano and nobody really wanted to pay to move the piano. So we finally advertised it as a free piano because it was a nice piano. And the stipulation was you had to pay to have it moved yourself. No matter how you wanted to do that, it was yours for the taking, but you had to get your own piano mover in there to do it. And we
Right.
found a family that had a daughter taking piano lessons, and they got a free piano, so it was really nice.
Except they really didn't get a free piano because they had to pay for the shipping, right? So that's another thing is as shipping costs and things like that get so much more expensive that people don't want those big ticket items anymore. So is it worth
Hmm.
selling or with is not? So you kind of have to
Right,
look in the aspect of who wants a lot more stuff around their house, you know. And a lot of
right,
these places, like when you buy a new fridge, they'll come and take the old, but some don't do that, or they charge you extra money. So you got to look at that kind of stuff too. Fridges are
right,
another thing
right,
that is kind of an interesting topic for refrigerators because people love their refrigerators and want to take them with you. But once you start moving that stuff up and downstairs and stuff, I don't know. It's
right,
like Murphy's Law. Before you know it, it gets broken. So just
right,
leave the fridge at the house. If you want to get rid of old fridges, just find somebody who wants it for free and they can haul it away because it costs so much money. It costs more money to get it taken away than what it's worth.
right. It does. It absolutely does. So
So
another thing that people have, and maybe don't have a whole lot of it, but if it was handed down to them, they might have sterling silver. Now,
okay.
sterling silver, it does have a value. It's unlike, you know, um, silver plate. Silver plate has no value really.
Right.
But sterling silver, if you watch the market prices, it does go up and down. There are different jewelers in the area that will buy silver. You
Mm,
should call a couple of them just to get their current price and make sure you're comparing apples to apples on those prices because some of those prices could be listed a little differently. So just make sure you're questioning them on that, and then pick the one. Watch the value in the market, and when the value looks like it's at a high or pretty high compared to what it was, maybe a couple weeks ago, go ahead and take it over and sell it. I know that Iroff and Sons on Old Milton Parkway in Alpharetta, they do buy silver. They've
mm.
got a beautiful showroom of jewelry as well, but they go through the pieces, they'll weigh them, and then give you that day's market price, a percentage of that price at least. So that's a good way of selling sterling silver.
Yeah, so I mean, just coming from experience, I remember I had an older couple and this guy had this gold coin, you know, stuff, like lots of them. And he thought they were worth like a gazillion dollars, and we all
Right,
know that they were not. So bringing like a specialist in to tell them what it's worth is also so that kind of stuff. You're shocked that it's not worth that much, and you're like, okay, let's just get rid of it. So
right,
that's something like that I've seen in the past, like gold coins that people think that they're, how they're perceived is that they're, going to be worth, if you buy it now in 1930, by the time 2024 comes, it's going to be, $1 million. No. So I think that just educating people too, and also bringing in a state specialist that
hmm,
know that kind of market and what you're going to get for it. Because like I
right,
said, everyone thinks their stuff is worth more than it is. So that's why you kind of have to evaluate the time and effort putting into selling something or just giving it away.
Right, right. And I've seen where, people have their coveted stamp collections. Well, people don't really collect stamps much
Yeah.
anymore. So
Mm-mm.
those probably aren't worth anything, even though somebody might tell you it's worth all this. It's probably not. I've seen situations where we've brought in a estate sale specialist and somebody said, "Oh, we've got this, one of a kind, custom made Oriental rug for the living room." And when it came right down to it, the living room was so large and the rug was such a unique size that it didn't really sell for much because it didn't
Right.
have a place to go in most people's homes because of that unique size. And then I've also seen some other things where, there was a cabinet in a basement and somebody had painted it gray. It just was used for like nails and screws and things like that in this particular basement. And when I brought the estate sale person in to look at it, they said, actually, that's worth a lot of money because that is an antique Coates and Clark embroidery floss cabinet that they used to
Wow.
have in like, Woolworths and so forth years ago. And you're like, really, a cabinet from Woolworths like looked like this and is really worth something? That cabinet, we sold it in an estate sale. It went for like thousands of dollars, whereas
Wow.
that expensive looking Oriental rug, because it was came from such a large living room, that sold for like nothing. So
Yeah,
you
and I
just
think that that's
never
what you have to
know.
look at. Is
Right,
that
right.
sometimes you don't know. And what I would also say is eBay, believe it or not, is still really popular out there. So
Hmm.
if you have vintage stuff and just put it out there. I mean, because
Right.
there
Especially
people are
vintage
online.
jewelry.
Yeah.
Vintage jewelry can be worth quite a bit, but you shouldn't just let it sit in your drawer. Don't donate that stuff. Do take it and get it valued, at an appropriate jewelry store or an estate sale. Somebody who really knows what they're talking about, because
Yeah. So
that
let's
those
dig
rings and
into
so forth,
yeah.
hmm
Let's
they
dig
can really be worth
into
something.
clothing and shoes and things like that. What's not worth selling from your clean out? Unless
Undies
they're
and shoes.
yeah, I would say well, and we won't even go into the underwear part because that gets thrown out in the garbage. But I don't know. I couldn't never think about donating. The only thing I would do is bras, like certain specific um, shops, and Annabella in downtown Alpharetta does it every year, a bra clean out where you bring old bras in. I don't know what they do with them, recycle them or whatever, or give them to people. And then they give you like a discount to buy a new one or whatever. That would be the only other thing, like socks, underwear, clothes. Unless you're doing like, if you want to do a garage sale, sure, get rid of things for 50 cents or whatever, but is that worth your time? I think you have to look
Right,
in, is your time worth more than money, right? So
right,
getting rid of those type of things. Now, shoes and purses, people will say different things depending on what kind of purse they are, what kind of shoes they
right,
are. So that's
right.
another item that you have to research, and you can go sell it on all different
Poshmark.
kinds of luxury.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
luxury stores that will buy stuff like that. So
Mhm.
if it's a luxury, but just the average clothing that you have out there and shoes that you just pick up.
Now there are
Brand.
organizations, Mary Ellen, that will collect shoes,
Yes,
and for instance, they will collect 5,000 pairs of shoes at once, and they will take
right.
them to third world countries and things like that. So I shouldn't say don't donate your shoes. If they're really worn out, be realistic about it. Those
Yeah.
things need to go in the trash. But if you have something that where you bought a pair of sandals or bought a pair of shoes and you wore them once or twice and they hurt your feet and that's why you never wore them again, donate those because somebody else's foot's a little different shape than yours, a different size than yours, and somebody might really appreciate that.
And don't let them sit in your closet. The same thing. If you haven't used it in a year, you're not going to use it. There's what's going
Right,
to inspire you to use it. So just,
right,
donate it to someone who needs it.
right.
But that's just something that we're talking about. What's not worth selling from your clean out. So I mean, it's like I said, time and money. You just have to figure out. Some people like that. That's they're driven by putting things on Facebook Market and doing all that kind of stuff and making money off that stuff because sometimes treasures are out there, right? You're going to find
Right,
stuff, and other
right.
times you're not.
And
So I
for
think we
some
talked.
people, I understand it is a hobby to buy, used
Yes, of
items
course.
and then put them out there and resell them. That's fine if that's what floats your boat and it's a little bit of a hobby for you. Maybe it makes a little extra income for you. That's totally fine. That's
Yeah.
totally fine.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So another thing that's really interesting too is art. Okay.
Mhm.
So everyone thinks their art is worth, whatever it's worth. So I think that's a big thing. Or you inherit a piece of art. Like I've seen so many times on Facebook where somebody's like, have you ever seen this? And then somebody looks it up and goes, oh, that's worth like $2,000 or 3,000, whatever. And people
Right.
thought it's like they were just going to chuck it in the garbage because they didn't know. So looking at art and, everyone chooses their own art, just like they choose their own shoes and they choose their own handbags or whatever.
Right.
So that's just another thing. Is it worth it? You just have to look at what it's worth and the time putting into getting rid of that piece of art or pieces of art.
Right. Right. So I think as you look at all of these things, don't rush through the job. I know you want to declutter and so forth, but just be careful about looking at things because just like that example I gave you of that cabinet that I just thought was in the basement was a piece of junk. It really wasn't. It was an actual antique that did have value. So you want to make sure that as you're going through piles of things, you are careful that, somebody, didn't leave something valuable in the pile. Plus, there could be some sentimental things that you do honestly want to keep. And you have every right to keep those things because they have meaning to you. So, the worst thing is to look back and say, whatever happened to, that piece of art or that particular piece that, was something sentimental to the family and not know what happened to it or where it ended up.
Yeah, and I think, we all go through emotional times when we're dealing with estates or, dealing with family
Mhm.
members that have passed or friends or whatever, and we want to keep a couple things. So I always limit it. Like I was always told, like, take 3 things that are sentimental from like your grandparents or whatever. And
Mhm.
and I still and have them incorporate them in your life so that you see them. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
it reminds you of those special people
Right.
that are in your
Right.
lives or were in your lives. So
Mhm.
just cleaning out and getting rid of stuff. It's your piece of junk might be someone else's treasure, right, Sue? So you
Absolutely.
got to look at that and look at the time it takes to sell those items or the time it takes to just have someone pick them up. And I love that, that people are just giving things, they're just giving back. So, hey, I've got
Mhm.
all this stuff, take pictures of it, and people come and pick it up, and just, somebody else is enjoying it. And I think, like, let's go like into toys a little bit because I never kept toys of my children. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I just
Right.
would get rid
Right.
of them. And some people have a hard time doing that. So why not when the kid outgrows, you're not having any more children, the kids outgrow, you're at it, they're at a year or whatever, then you have to um, get rid of that stuff. So just there's so many families that need those toys too.
Right.
So
Right.
as you're cleaning out toys, even ask your neighbors too. Like I know that like we have a neighborhood thing where, hey, I'm getting rid of this, and this, show pictures. It's for free. Come pick it up. Because
Right.
it all goes back to how expensive it is to get rid of stuff, to have
Right.
junk removers come or whatever, because it's gotten so expensive to that. Or, have a little garage sale. Like all the neighborhoods
Right.
have a garage sale. That's a
Right.
great way to, hey, I'm getting rid of this, and this. So
Right.
that would be my suggestion.
One of the funniest things I ever bought in a garage sale was a light blue furry and sequined telephone. And I bought it as a joke because our house was a little bit older and somebody had wired it for a telephone, but we didn't have a
Ah,
telephone out in the garage, even though the line did work. So I jokingly hung this light blue furry sequined telephone out in the garage for a while. Of course, my husband then made me take it down in about 2 days, but that's okay.
it
It
was a
was just
joke,
kind of a
right? It
fun
was a
thing.
joke. And then then just going back to decluttering and cleaning out stuff, and the best way to keep on top of this is when you do bring something new into your house, you get rid of something. And I don't think people do that. And then they get overwhelmed. So don't get overwhelmed and just do it a little bit at a time. Do
Right.
one closet at a time, one room at a time. Because I know, like, when my parents moved from our childhood house, they wanted us, they were like, here's their boxes of stuff and trophies and things like that. And at first I took them, but I remember just going through them and going, do I need a trophy from second grade? No. Do I need a trophy from this? So just think about all those ribbons and things like that, yes, keep some for sentimental stuff, but do you really need, like, soccer trophies and track trophies and basketball and volleyball trophies, unless they were for a specific, event that was, informative. So,
I have one special sweatshirt I've kept.
right.
And I've probably never even told you this, Mary Ellen, but I think you know that when I was younger, many years ago,
Mhm.
I skated competitively. And one year I skated in nationals with
Yes.
my team. And so I did keep the sweatshirt from when I skated in
Well,
nationals.
and you know what? I do have one of my first T-shirts, and I can tell you this. This is kind of funny. Is that in like when we were in school, high school was ninth, 10th. Wait, no, it was 10th, 11th, and 12th. So it wasn't the ninth grade, right? So I was in 8th grade, and I was a runner, and they wanted me to run with the high school. So I got to run with the high school team. So they called me the kid. So that was my nickname because I was so young and everybody else was old, like they were 2 years plus older than me. So I had a T-shirt with my school name, Half Hollow Hills East, and then on the back it said the kid. And I actually still have that T-shirt. So you got to keep some things from your childhood, but
Right.
a lot of things, just like how we talked about, when our kids draw something, we don't always need to keep that too. So just kind of getting rid of that stuff. So
Right.
that's a story in that self. So today we
Right.
talked about what's not worth selling from your clean out. So I think it's a personal choice. We gave you some ideas and some suggestions on what you can do with some of those items. And I think less is better. I think we've come into a world where people want less stuff. They just don't want a lot of
Right.
stuff. We're seeing so
Right.
many nomad people traveling the world or selling everything they own and just going and traveling the world. So I think that just looking at that, we don't need materialistic things anymore and keep some of the sentimental, but get rid of some of the stuff. So
Mhm.
now we're going to go into our second segment, which is a neighborhood in the North Atlanta area. And I know Sue has a great one for us today, which is called The Gathering. And
Yes.
fire away about the
So the
details.
Gathering is a mixed-use community that's being built by Brock Built Homes. It's located at Westside Parkway and Haynesbridge Road, which is exit 9 of Georgia 400, for those of you not familiar with it. This is practically walkable to downtown Alpharetta, and it's got great access to the Alpha Loop as well. These homes are going to start for townhomes. They're going to start in the high 600s and go up into the millions, and then single family homes are going to be 1.4 million plus.
Nice.
There won't be that many single homes there, but the Gathering is going to be just an array of mostly townhomes, some shops, some offices, and single homes, and just some great dining options and so forth. What's really unique about this community, if you go to Brock Built's website and look at this community called The Gathering, they're very contemporary floor plans. So if you're into modern architecture and you want something that's a little bit different,
Ooh,
this might be a
interesting.
great community for you.
That's really
It'll have a
interesting, Sue. That's really
Mhm,
interesting because
mhm,
we've heard a lot about how Alpharetta is trying to keep it very traditional, and
mhm.
they have allowed some contemporary to come into the city of Alpharetta. That's very interesting that you say that, because
Yeah,
we've
so this
been
is
hearing
a little
mixed.
bit more on the outskirts of downtown. So this would sit, like I said, it's on the corner of West Side and Haynesbridge. So
Yeah.
it's over closer to Georgia 400 and, North Point Parkway area and that sort of thing. So, but it does give you a nice array of options and in floor plans. And, most of them are 3-bedroom in the townhouses, up to 4-bedroom and so forth. But it's a nice suburban setting. It's a safe area, good schools, nice quality of life, and a great lifestyle in general.
Yeah, great. That's great information. So if you need any more information, you reach out to us. We're more than happy to give you that information. So our next segment is what we love about North Atlanta. So I know Sue is a big breakfast girl. She loves to go out to eat with her family for breakfast on the weekends and do all that kind of stuff. So she's going to tell us about a couple places in Alpharetta that she loves,
Yeah.
and fire away.
So I think I'd like to, segment most of these places in individual podcasts for the future. So I'm going to really focus on just one today. It
Okay.
is a chain, but it's new to the Alpharetta area in the last year or so. It's called Snooze, which I think is such a
Snooze.
cute name. But when you go inside, it has kind of that mid-century modern vibe. And they've got a fantastic menu of, some plant-based options, a lot of very healthy options, and just some really yummy, yummy recipes that are just a little bit unique compared to some of the other breakfast places around. It's just a little bit different. And what's nice about Snooze is they do offer a wait list. You can get their app in advance and put yourself on the wait list so that when you arrive, you don't have a very long wait once you get there, because it does get very busy on weekend mornings in particular. They are open a good portion of the day, but they have brunch items. They also have some items that, salads and so forth you could have for lunch if you were there. They do have some bar items as well. But I think their French toast is fantastic. And they've got great eggs
Ah,
Benedict and omelets and breakfast tacos and
yummy.
just,
Making me
huevos
hungry.
rancheros. Yeah, avocado toast is another favorite. They've got great oatmeal, shrimp and grits. It's just a really fun, sunny place to have breakfast. You can eat
And where
inside or
exactly is it
outside.
located? Where is it
It's
located
at the
exactly?
corner of Haynesbridge Road and North Point Parkway.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so it's in a great location right there by Georgia 400 and exit 9 of Georgia
Perfect.
400. Yeah, their
Perfect.
fruit is really amazing too. It's not like chopped up melon, it's actually like berries and things like that in the
Ooh,
fruit.
yummy. Yeah.
So they've been around since 2006, and their dishes are all very unique and very reasonably priced as well. And then you can join their points program and accumulate
Oh.
points. As the more that you eat there, you get
Mhm.
some discounts.
The more you eat, the more discount you get. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing sometimes, the more you eat. Well, I guess it's a great place to go, meet people and have a nice hearty breakfast, because that's what.
Right,
And then on the weekends, it's going to be really crazy because everybody's out and about on the weekends. So maybe going during the
right.
week might be a good suggestion. Well, thank you so much for our podcast for today, talking about what you can clean out and what you want to get rid of, and the costs involved and things like that. So hopefully you got some great information today, and thank you so much, Sue, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
Marianne. Bye.